When I was around 10 or 11 years old, something happened to me that I still can't explain. It was winter and I went to school in the morning shift, so I usually came home much earlier than my parents. Since it got dark really early in winter, by the time I got home, it was already kind of gloomy outside. That day, I came home around 2 p.m., turned on the TV, had something to eat, and just killed time watching shows. A couple of hours passed, and then, out of nowhere, the electricity went out. Not just in our apartment, but in the entire neighborhood. Even the streetlights outside went dark. Suddenly, I was completely alone in the pitch black. At first, I just sat there frozen, but then I slowly got up and tried to feel my way toward the kitchen. By memory, I managed to find a candle and a lighter, and I brought them back into the living room. I didn't want to sit anywhere else. Our apartment was small, but the living room felt the safest, maybe because it was the biggest space. So I lit the candle there and sat on the couch. Pretty quickly, I got unbelievably bored. The only light in the whole apartment was the single candle, and the silence felt heavy. So out of boredom, I pulled out my old phone, a tiny Samsung Star, one of those early touchscreen phones, and started playing music I had downloaded. I even started trolling around the room to the music, just to kill time. That's when it happened. Our living room had 2 doors, one that led to the hallway, and another that led into my parents' bedroom. As I was spinning around in the dim glow of the candle, I saw the bedroom door slowly open. From the darkness inside, something stepped forward, just a pure white silhouette. It had no hair, no facial features, no details at all. Just a glowing white figure, completely silent, standing there and looking straight at me. I froze in place. I remember staring at it, completely shocked. It lasted maybe a second, maybe even less, but then, as calmly as if it were a person, the figure pulled back into the bedroom and closed the door behind it. I just stood there, in total disbelief. My mind kept racing. If the door had just swung open by itself, that would have been one thing, but this wasn't that. Something came out, looked at me, then went back in and shut the door. I was terrified. I immediately stopped the music, sat back down on the couch, and didn't move. I didn't go near the door. Outside it was pitch black, freezing cold, and there was no light anywhere. I felt trapped. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep on the couch out of pure fear and exhaustion, because the next thing I remember is my mom waking me up when she got home. By then, the electricity was back. I still don't know what I saw that night. It's one of those childhood memories that stuck with me forever. I don't expect anyone to believe me, but it really happened, and it was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. I've been thinking about sharing this for a while because my mom has told this story the same way her whole life, and I've never been able to figure out what it could have been. She's a very straight-edge, logical person who doesn't lie, exaggerate, or make things up. So when she says this happened, I believe her. When my mom was around 4 or 5 years old, she was going through a very abusive situation. Her father hurt her regularly and even let his friends abuse her too. One day, after a particularly bad beating, she was hiding in her closet, crying and feeling completely alone. She remembers feeling unloved, scared, and just totally broken down. That's when something appeared with her in the closet. She says it was about her size at the time, maybe 4 to 5 feet tall, with the face of an old man and an upturned, almost pig-like nose. It told her it didn't have any friends either, and that it would be her friend. From that moment on, they basically spent all their time together. They played with toys, solved puzzles, looked at books. She remembers all of it very clearly and describes him as a real friend who made her feel less alone. It was protective too. One time, she wandered off into the woods near her home, and it scolded her and brought her back. Whenever adults were around, it would disappear. She said it would crawl under her bed and go into the wall through a little door, but whenever she looked afterward, the door wasn't there. For a long time, my mom thought maybe it was something her brain created to help her survive what she was going through. The only problem is the reason my grandma moved them out makes my mom sound a lot less crazy. One day, my grandma was walking past my mom's room and heard my mom talking to what she thought was herself. until she clearly heard a grown man's voice answering her back. She rushed into the room, but no one was there. My mom told her about the little man, and the very next day my grandma moved them out of that house. My mom remembers that last night clearly. She says the little man showed up one more time, angry and upset that she told her mother about him. He said they couldn't be friends anymore. She never saw him again, but still gets sad thinking about him because, in her words, he was my closest friend back then and I miss him. I'm not trying to jump to conclusions about what it was. I honestly don't know. Maybe it was some kind of coping mechanism, but the way she describes it, and the fact that my grandma heard a man's voice, has always made me wonder if something else was going on. I have been living in an Octagon house built in 1855 for over 20 years, and have experienced some things over the years which I have posted in the past. The last major event occurred as my family and I sat down for Thanksgiving dinner around 4 p.m. in our kitchen on the first floor of our 2-floor single-family home. Shortly after everyone was seated, I distinctly heard unmistakable footsteps on the second floor above the kitchen where nobody was at the time. The steps continued and what sounded like movement across the upstairs room and then down the stairs directly outside the open kitchen doorway. The steps then began to approach me from behind, although I didn't look back, since it all happened fairly fast. I could actually feel the thumping of the floorboards as the footsteps approached. Before I had a chance to say anything, my youngest daughter looked under the table and said to me, "Oh, you're doing that, Dad?" I said, "No, it's not me, and you heard and felt that too?" It was creepy to say the least, and the weird thing is that only my younger daughter and I heard or felt anything. My other daughter and wife didn't have a clue what we had experienced. The unique thing about this experience is that only my youngest daughter and I have experienced things in the house. Never my wife or older daughter. Makes you think we are tuned into these experiences more than them. Have a paranormal experience of your own? Share it with us at officialphantom.mic@gmail.com. Whether in text or voice recording, we want to hear your story. Thank you for tuning in to Phantom Mic, and remember, if you still feel alone, you weren't listening closely enough.